The surgical wing of Crestfall Medical Center was unusually tense that morning. Nurses hurried from station to station, surgeons reviewed charts with clipped voices, and alarms echoed faintly from distant rooms. But inside Oregon 3, the pressure was suffocating. A high-profile operation was minutes away, and every pair of hands had to be precise, steady, and obedient. At least, that's what the hospital's CEO, Adrian Hale, believed as he stood watching the team prepare. He wasn't supposed to be in the operating room at all. CEOs rarely stepped into sterile zones, but Hale had a reputation for control. He wanted to monitor this surgery personally because the patient was a major investor whose survival meant millions for the hospital. Lena Ward, the circulating nurse assigned to the case, moved calmly as she set up the last tray of instruments. She was quiet, focused, and incredibly efficient, which made her stand out in a place where nerves often dominated. But Hale didn't see skill. He saw a nurse he didn't recognize. He saw someone who wasn't intimidated by him, who didn't shrink when he entered the room. And to him, that was unacceptable. As the anesthesiologist adjusted the patient's oxygen levels, Hale spotted Lena checking the incision marking. "You're doing it wrong," he snapped, stepping closer. Lena didn't respond. She knew the marking was correct. She had followed the surgeon's chart exactly. "I said you're doing it wrong," he repeated, his voice rising enough that the scrub tech looked up in alarm. She calmly handed a tool to the surgeon who was scrubbing in. "Everything is as ordered, sir," she said finally, still composed. Hale's jaw tightened. Something about her tone, steady, unshaken, infuriated him. No one in the hospital ever spoke to him like that. People usually apologized, bent, and folded under his authority. The surgeon, Dr. Klein, tried to diffuse the tension. "Adrian, it's fine. The prep is correct." But Hale wasn't listening. In a sudden, irrational burst of anger, he stepped forward, grabbed Lena by the collar of her scrubs, and shoved her back against the supply wall. The metal tray beside her rattled violently. Gasps filled the room. The anesthesiologist froze. "Dr. Klein sputtered, "Adrian, what the hell are you doing?" Hale's hand tightened around her throat, not enough to cut off her breathing completely but enough to humiliate, enough to show power. "You don't talk back to me," he hissed. Lena didn't flinch, even though everyone else was pale with shock. Her breathing stayed controlled, her gaze steady, almost cold. Hale expected fear. Instead, he saw something far more dangerous: calculation. She raised her hands slowly, not in surrender but in absolute control of her movements. "Release me," she said quietly. "Oh, or what?" he taunted. That was his mistake. In one swift, fluid motion, so fast that most of the team didn't even process what had happened, Lena shifted her weight, hooked her arm under his, rotated, and pinned him face down against the sterile equipment cart. His wrist was twisted behind his back in a perfect compliance hold. The CEO of the hospital was immobilized in less than 2 seconds by a nurse half his size. Instruments rattled, a clamp fell to the floor, and the entire OR went silent. Hale groaned in pain, trying to yank himself free, but the harder he struggled, the tighter her hold became. "What? How? Let go of me," he sputtered. "Sir," she said evenly, "if you continue resisting, I will dislocate your shoulder. Please remain still." Dr. Klein stared, jaw hanging. The anesthesiologist whispered, "Holy, she just military flipped him." Lena slowly released him and stepped back, posture straight, face expressionless. Hale stumbled, humiliated and furious. "You're fired," he roared. Dr. Klein shook his head. "Adrian, she didn't attack you. You assaulted her." But no one expected what Lena said next, her voice quiet but carrying enough weight to freeze the entire room. "I am a former Marine. And you just put your hands on the wrong person." What followed, no one in the hospital would ever forget. Security was already pouring into the hallway by the time the commotion in Oregon 3 settled, but Klein stopped them with a raised hand. He didn't dare escalate anything while a major surgery was minutes from starting. The team was shaken, whispers bouncing around the room as Lena calmly adjusted her gloves like nothing unusual had happened. Hale, however, was trembling with rage, his pride shredded more violently than his wrist, which he kept flexing in pain. "You're done here," Hale spat, his voice shaking. "Pack your things. You'll never work in a hospital again." Lena didn't react. She simply checked the sterilization indicator on a tray and spoke quietly, "The surgery starts in 4 minutes. For the patient's sake, put your emotions aside and leave the OR." The surgeon pinched the bridge of his nose. "Adrian," She's right, we can't delay. If you want to fire her, do it after. Hale stepped toward her again, but this time drive. Klein blocked him with a stiff arm. No, out, now. It was rare for anyone to oppose the CEO, but after seeing him choke a nurse mid-procedure setup, even the bravest staff wanted him nowhere near the patient. Hale stormed out, slamming the OR doors so hard they shook. Everyone exhaled at once. The room felt lighter immediately, though the tension remained like residue. Lena continued her tasks precisely, not even looking rattled. But inside, she was fighting the memories clawing up from her past, another authority abusing power, another enclosed room where she had been forced to act. She swallowed the thought down, returned to her training, and remained composed. The surgery went smoothly, almost flawlessly. Dr. Klein was known for his skill, but even he admitted later that Lena had kept the entire team steady. Every instrument was ready before he needed it, every instruction anticipated. But the moment the case ended, Lena knew what awaited her outside. She walked out of Oregon 3 with her head held high. Hale was waiting. 2 board members stood beside him, looking uneasy. Hale jabbed a finger at her. She assaulted me. I want her removed from the premises immediately. Lena locked eyes with him. You grabbed me by the throat in a sterile environment during an active case setup. I defended myself using minimal, non-injurious force. The cameras will confirm everything. The board members' subtlety exchanged glances. They knew he had a temper, but the idea of him physically attacking staff was dangerous for the hospital's reputation. One of them cleared his throat. Let's review the footage before any decisions. There's no need. Hale barked. She's a liability. Lena's voice remained steady. I request that security retrieve the footage. I'll wait. Hale lunged as if to grab her again, but security stepped between them instantly this time, having witnessed the aftermath in the OR and knowing too well where Hale's impulses led. As they escorted him to cool off in his office, the board followed reluctantly, clearly uneasy. Left alone in the hallway, Lena took one deep breath and exhaled the adrenaline from the encounter. She knew she had done nothing wrong, but dealing with powerful men who believed themselves untouchable was always draining. She collected her belongings and waited quietly outside the administrative wing. An hour later, the board summoned her. They looked pale, almost embarrassed. One spoke softly, Miss Ward, the footage shows drive. Hale initiating physical assault. You reacted with appropriate self-defense. You didn't escalate or inflict unnecessary harm. In fact, you acted with more restraint than most would. The other added, we won't terminate you. However, Dr. Hale is demanding disciplinary action. He insists you undermined him. Lena simply replied, I upheld patient safety and protocol. If defending my own life is considered undermining him, that's his issue, not mine. Just then, the door flew open. Hale entered, face red, hair disheveled, fury simmering beneath his skin. But there was something else in his expression too, fear. Pure fear. He pointed at her with a trembling hand. She is not who she says she is, he said, voice cracking. I ran her file. She's hiding something. The board looked at him, stunned. Lena's jaw flexed slightly, because she knew exactly what he had found. And the truth was about to shatter the hospital. The room fell into an uneasy silence as Hale's accusation lingered in the air. The board members looked between him and Lena, waiting for an explanation, but Lena offered none. Her posture stayed steady, shoulders square, eyes calm. It wasn't the stillness of fear. It was the stillness of someone who had survived worse than reputation attacks and angry CEOs. Hale shoved a document onto the table, his finger jabbing the page with frantic urgency. She's not just a nurse, he hissed. She's former Marine Force Recon. Classified operations. Combat background. Why wasn't this on her hospital profile? His voice cracked as he spoke, because the footage of her effortlessly pinning him replayed in his mind again and again, humiliating him each time. Lena finally looked at the paper. There was no requirement for me to list my military record. My medical licenses, certifications, and clearances are valid. I disclosed everything relevant for this job. Hale slammed his palm on the table. You're dangerous. One of the board members raised an eyebrow. More dangerous than a CEO choking a nurse in the middle of surgery prep. Hale's nostrils flared, but he had no rebuttal. Lena kept her voice leveled and emotionless. My past is not a threat here. My behavior today was entirely within hospital protocol and self-defense guidelines. But Hale wasn't reasoning anymore. His pride was bleeding, his authority felt threatened, and nothing pushed a man like him into recklessness faster than the fear of being exposed as weak. She's a liability, he repeated. A soldier pretending to be a nurse. What if she snaps? What if she hurts a patient? Lena's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. She had learned long ago that trying to convince fearful men of the truth was pointless. The board, however, wasn't blind. They had watched the footage. They had seen a CEO attack a nurse. They had seen a nurse respond with precision, restraint, and calm. The contrast was damning. The older board member leaned forward. Dr. Hale, if anything, Miss Ward may be the most composed staff member we've ever seen under pressure. He glanced at Lena. Your record, military or not, is impressive. You've served honorably. Your conduct here reflects that. Hale's face reddened until it was nearly purple. You're taking her side. She humiliated me. She defended herself from an unprovoked assault, the board member corrected quietly. And you may have just endangered the hospital's reputation. Hale turned toward Lena, desperation now leaking through his anger. You think you can ruin me? He spat. I built this hospital. You're ruining yourself, Lena replied softly. I'm just standing here. That single sentence sent him spiraling. He lunged again, not to hit her, but to rip the paper back, as if that would somehow erase everything. But the moment he moved, security stepped between them. This time, he didn't even try to fight them. He simply sank into the chair, shaking. The board dismissed Lena so they could speak privately, but as she left, Hale's voice followed her, low and trembling. This isn't over. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Outside in the hallway, she exhaled deeply. For the first time since the incident began, her hands trembled, just slightly. She hated being dragged into her past. She hated conflicts like this, the ones that felt familiar in all the wrong ways. But she wasn't prepared for what came next. 2 hours later, the board called her back into the room. Their expressions were grave, not angry, almost apologetic. The oldest member cleared his throat. Miss Ward, we reviewed the footage again. We spoke with staff. We spoke with the legal team. Dr. Hale's behavior is indefensible. Lena waited. We've decided to suspend drive. Hale pending full investigation. She blinked once. That was not what she expected. The other board member stood. However, Dr. Hale threatened to go public. He claims he was attacked by a former Marine. He will use his position, his influence, and the media to turn this into a scandal. Lena met their eyes steadily. I'm not afraid of him. We know, the board member said gently. But he's afraid of you. Before she could respond, the door burst open again, but this time, it wasn't Hale. It was security, and their next words shocked everyone. Miss Ward, we need you to come with us. There's been an incident involving drive. Hale, he's accusing you of something serious. For the first time, Lena felt a chill crawl up her spine. Because she realized Hale wasn't finished. He was escalating, and dangerously so.